All right, guys, welcome to our very first podcast of Roman and Dave Podcast, the podcast. Now, obviously, my abilities to come up with a creative name are not great, so we're just going to call this RDPP, Roman and Dave Podcast, the podcast. And this podcast is all just about fun, my opinions on things, other people's opinions on things, and just things I find interesting. So we're going to talk about anything from sports to movies to comics, comic books, music, and just basically anything I find interesting. And I think it'll be fun, and I think it will be a learning experience for everybody. And I do promise this will get better as we go along. So I did want to say that I am looking forward to everything, and I'm very nervous, but that's good. So part of the podcast that we're going to have, and I'd just like to spend a couple minutes talking about what we have to look forward to before we get into the meat of the podcast. I'd like to have guests on, as many as I can. So anybody from like musicians to just friends that are in the sports industry, that are in the music industry, that like comic books, other podcasters, and just have a conversation with them about things that we want to talk about. And I'd like to also have podcasts about just like if you guys submit some questions to me, see if you care about what my opinion is or not, whichever. But I do look forward to having the questions and answers part of the podcast too. I think that's going to be really fun. And I just think that it's going to be a way to communicate with everybody, and hopefully you guys learn a little something, and hopefully I learn a lot along the way. Don't worry, Roman will be a co-host on this podcast from time to time, but for most part, it's going to be me. It's going to be about my thoughts. Roman has nothing to do with it. It's going to be some adult conversations, some adult drinks from time to time, and So one of the things I am looking forward to is, especially if I have a guest on, we are going to do a segment called "Have a Drink on Me" by the famous AC/DC song, and you see this bar behind me. The guests will get to pick any drink that they want, and I'll make them their drink, and that's going to be our drink of the day. So since I am going to be the only one on the show today, I get to choose what I want to drink. And so since I am a fan of whiskey, my very first drink, the drink of the show, have a drink on me, is going to be an Old Forester Neat. So I'm going to get that right now. And I'm going to have some, and I'm going to enjoy it. So here we have some Old Forester. If you notice, it's already cracked a little bit because it is my favorite bourbon. It's delicious. So if anybody wants to send some to me, have at it. All right, guys. Cheers to the very first episode. I hope you guys like it. I tell you what, for the price that you pay for this drink, it's pretty good and it's smooth. I reckon any bourbon lovers, give it a shot. You might like it. Also, before we get started, if anyone is interested, if you can't tell by here, we have some merch for you. So we have some bottles, some for the kids, some for the grown-ups, and the official shirts of the Roman and Dave podcast. So if you guys are interested in getting any, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach us on Facebook, Roman and Dave Podcast, Instagram, Roman and Dave Podcast, or you can email me at romananddavepodcast@gmail.com. So please reach out to us. The shirts are $18, and the cups are going to be about $20 a piece. So if you guys are interested, reach out to me. I'd be glad to get some to you as soon as I can. Great Christmas gift for the kids. I'm just kidding. If anybody gets any for their kids, then have at it, I guess. All right. So the one thing, so this, like I said, this is gonna be just kind of a rough draft of what the show's gonna be like. Hopefully, you guys like it. I promise I'll straighten out. It's gonna be a little rough around the edges, but we'll get through it. And so I hope you guys enjoy it. So one of the things I was kind of hoping to talk about is this NBA in-season tournament. Now, I get why they're trying to do it. They're trying to get people interested in the middle of this, at the beginning of the season for the NBA. The problem is, though, is it's not getting enough eyes on it. I don't think you're ever going to get enough eyes on the in-season tournament. You will in the big city markets, the New Yorks, the LA, maybe even like San Antonio, stuff like that. But you're not going to get America to watch, especially the season tournament during football season. Like, football is king in America. It always is, and probably always will be. And if it's not, it's going to be like that for a long, long time. Now, I think one of the reasons why they have, like, NFL is king is a couple reasons. Americans like action. You know, they like hitting, they like violence. But it's like an attraction. You know, like, NFL is only 17 games long, and 8 of those games, half of those games, 8 or 9 of those games will be at home. So each home team you only get to see in their stadium potentially 8 times the whole year. You get to see 8 NBA games in a month or in 2 weeks. You know, so I think the problem, you know, is in NFL, it's like an attraction, especially if there's another team like when Tom Brady used to play. The tickets for the prices of NFL would go way up to watch Tom Brady. And because he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. And I don't think anybody can really argue with that. I mean, people will, but it's really hard to argue that he's not. Where NBA, you have 80-some games, and you just want to... It's hard to be like, find it special. Because you're seeing your favorite team at least 3 times a week, and then on top of it, the megastar players are only playing like one. They're taking off every like 5th or 6th game for rest. So my theory is that if you want people to watch the NBA and make it matter again, you have to be able to make it special. And how do you make it special? It's not force-feeding an in-game tournament and pretending like it's a prestigious award when it's something that nobody cares about. You know, and I get maybe down the line, 10, 15 years down the road, people are going to look forward to it, but nobody really cares about this made-up award. Like at least with the trophies, for the NBA Finals, it's the best team that made the playoffs at the end of the season. It's not just like a bracket where everybody made it and everybody gets a chance at it before the season really starts. You know, and so that, like I was going back, that's what makes the NFL and college football so great, is that it is only one day a week, and it is an attraction, and it is a sprint. So I think, get rid of the NBA in-season tournament. I think it's useless. The floors are horrible, except for the Bulls. Go Bulls. But they're just trying too hard. If you want to make it special, shorten the season. That's my take on it. Start at Christmas. Once Christmas starts, it's just you guys and hockey. And you guys are kind of in the same boat. But hockey fans are so incredibly loyal, and it's impressive. But it's mainly like up north in Canada. But if you want NBA to be truly special, my opinion is to start at Christmas, have a 40-game sprint from Christmas to the normal playoffs, and I can guarantee you it'll start to be an attraction again. And to me, it's just and I get it. You need to sell tickets. You need to, you make your money because you're having all that stuff on. But I think on average, you're going to get in most markets. When you're Lakers and your Knicks, they're going to sell out all the time. I get it. But if you want your smaller market teams, your Milwaukee's of the world, your Indiana Pacers of the world, have a shorter season and make it an attraction. Make each game mean something. When you have 3 or 4 games every week from October through May, you don't care as much. It kind of gets watered down. So my opinion is start at Christmas. And Christmas is already NBA's day. NFL's trying to dip into it a little bit. NFL's king. I get it, but NBA will always be known for their Christmas games, and only the best players and the best teams are going to play on Christmas. It's kind of like an honor. Make that the start of the regular season. Have it be a sprint. The only reason why I feel like that would work, though, is because if you guys remember during the pandemic, the MLB only had 60 games. Usually there's 162 games. Well, during the pandemic, yeah, it wasn't great because there's no fans, and that's part of the game, is the fans' interaction and the roar of the crowd and the booing and all that stuff. That's part of it. But if you ask me, like, having that 60 games was a sprint. It was fun, and every game meant something. If you lost one game, that one game could have been the difference between making the playoffs and not. And to me, that made it fun. 60 games, I thought, and I love baseball. I could watch all 162 games and never get tired of it. So I'm more of a purist, and so I'm okay with but I can't watch every game. What you have a life and everything like that. But and so I think the NBA, if they adopted something like that, I think they would see us an uptick in attendance, and I think having it be more of an attraction, you would have more sellouts. That's the point I was trying to get. And more people are willing to go to games if there's less games to go to. And then you can make an attraction, and then you're going to sell more tickets. And then you'll see the viewership go up too, because it's not every day that you get to watch LeBron play, or you get to watch Westbrook play, or any of those guys. And but yeah, the in-season tournament needs to go. It's awful. It's boring. It's not doing anything. Nobody's even really paying attention to it, and the floors look awful. I don't know why they did that with the floors. Just have traditional floors. Nobody was asking for it. Those are pretty rough. I'd maybe speaking out turn on that one, but that's just my opinion on things. So yeah, that is my opinion on the NBA. As of right now. And I think the NBA, the problem is, in a whole, is you have all, I call it a T offense. You're basically around the perimeter, or you're a layup. And there's just not much in between. You don't, maybe it's because I don't understand the intricacies as much, and maybe I'm wrong with that, but back in the 90s, you had, zone defense, man defense, you had the mid-range shot, and I understand analytics had a lot to do with it, but it just makes it just kind of boring to me. NBA is boring. I'm just going to be out there. It's three-pointers and layups, and that's it. And there's no, you pass the ball a little bit till somebody's open around the perimeter and you shoot. Doesn't appear that there's too many, plays set up, maybe in college a little bit, but I don't know. And there's no defense either. You don't see defense until, the end of the fourth quarter or the playoffs. And I don't understand how that is good for the game. Defense is so important to any sport that taking it out to have more points, to the point where points really don't matter, kind of like whose lines it anyway. NBA is the whose lines it anyway of the sports world, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. They really don't. It's just whoever gets to score the most points. Obviously that's how you win games. But I kind of miss when, in the NBA, the final score was 78-84, when there was defense and you guys can lock down guys and you guys can bump into each other a little bit. I think it got so out of hand that when the final score is 130-125, it just makes you numb to scoring. And I don't know. I just think there's a lot of issues with the NBA right now that are causing regular fans like me to tune out. I get updates on the Bulls the next day, see that they win or they lost, and then I move on, just because the games just don't really seem to matter and are kind of boring. But yeah, that's my take on, I guess it kind of is a hot take, but a take on the NBA. I appreciate you guys' opinions on that. Please comment or reach out to me. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe we can have a bigger discussion about that. ask a question, and then maybe we can have a discussion about that. But yeah, that's my take on the NBA. The other thing I did want to talk about, and excuse me, gotta take a sip, is I gotta talk about this team right here, the Cleveland Browns. Now, we got some bad news this week. As I'm recording this, it's Saturday night. On Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was, the bombshell landed that nobody expected, that Deshaun Watson was going to be out for the year. Not even because of his ankle. We all kind of assumed that he might miss a game or two because of like a high ankle sprain. But he broke his shoulder. And I don't get why people are giving him a hard time. The dude broke his shoulder and has a high ankle sprain in the first or beginning of the second quarter and finished the game and did it at an elite level. He was 14 for 14 for like 160 yards and like 2 touchdowns in the second half alone while having all that hurt. Like, that's a tough dude right there. And yeah, there's a discussion to have about who he is as a person and what he does behind the scenes or what he did. But this is strictly about on the field, what I saw on the field. What I saw on the field is he was pretty much in the second half all the way back to the Deshaun that we remember when he came out of Clemson and played for the Houston Texans. But it sucks as a Browns fan because you're looking at the schedule and you're looking like, man, they got a shot at to win the AFC North and make a run in the playoffs, because right now every team is beatable in the AFC. They got some good teams, the Miami Dolphins. They can put up points, but they haven't really shown that they can put up points against good teams. Every team that they beat is mediocre to downright bad. And then when they play against the tough teams, the playoff teams, they don't do as well. Now, can they turn around? Sure. They have the offensive power, and their running back is back, that rookie sensation. So that should help. But you look at the Browns' schedule, and they were going to take off. You knew they were going to take off, especially with that defense. Losing Nick Chubb, still having a second running attack in all of the NFL. And it just looked like, Browns can't have nice things sometimes. But do I think the season's over? No, not by a long shot. And the reason I say that, though, is because they won with P.J. Walker. Now, P.J. Walker, he's a good guy. I'm not denying that. He is a good man. But my God, is he just not an NFL starting quarterback. You can't have that many turnovers and that bad of a quarterback rating and be successful. The Browns were, because they have the best defense in football and the second best running team in the NFL. But the fact that they were able to win with Deshaun playing the way that he played at the beginning of the season against the Steelers and against the Cincinnati, and then winning with P.J. Walker, that gives me hope that we have a shot at least to make the playoffs, because we still don't have our first round pick, so it's not like we need a tank for the better picks, because that's still going to Houston. But I think it'll say a lot about the culture of the Browns if they can make a run at this. Now, is the AFC North in play? Maybe. The Ravens, as long as they got Lamar, they got a shot at it, and I think they're the class of the AFC North until it's proven otherwise, until somebody knocks them off. Even though Cleveland did knock them off, but that was when Deshaun was playing at an elite level. Now, but I think 10 games gets you into the playoffs. Right now, the Browns, again, this is Saturday night. This is right before the Steelers game, which we will talk about. The Browns are 6-3. So to me, I think 10 wins gets it in. So you need 4 wins. And if you look at that schedule, as long as DTR does not turn the ball over, and that's key, and that's exactly why P.J. Walker isn't playing, is because he turned the ball over too much. And when Deshaun's not coming back, you kind of give the kid a chance to kind of see if he can develop into something. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, the Browns should win more games than they lose just because of how good that defense is, especially at home. Away, when they're at an away stadium, they're not as good for some reason, but when they're at home, they are by far the best team in defense in the NFL. So my point with all this is, as long as the Browns do what they do best, run the ball and play great defense, and as long as they improve on not turning the ball over, punting is okay, especially with tomorrow's game in Pittsburgh. If we need to punt the ball and DTR's not throwing interceptions, I think they win the game. Now, I might be regretting this because this will come out after the game. We shall see. But I think the Browns are the better team tomorrow, and I think they're going to be favored in a lot of games if they do win the game tomorrow. And if they win the game tomorrow, I think they got a shot at having a home game during the playoffs. And I've never watched a home Browns playoff game. Every single playoff game that the Browns have had since their return has been away. 2 of them in Pittsburgh and 1 of them in Kansas City. They've only been to 3 playoff games since 1999. The Browns need a home game. That stadium will be rocking. That stadium will be on fire. And those fans really, they need something like that, man. We've been beat up. And I think if the Browns have a home game, I think they got a real shot at it still to this day, even with DTR. All he has to do is not throw interceptions and fumble the ball. Punts are okay. The defense is good enough to win games. Punt the ball, don't throw picks, and they will win more games than they lose. Will they go undefeated? No, they won't go undefeated. But I think they can get to 10 wins, and to me, that's good enough to win, to get a playoff spot. So, yeah, that's my take right now on the Browns. I would like to talk more about the Browns. I am a season ticket holder. I've been for 13 years. And I hope to have them for another 13 plus years. But, yeah. So, that's kind of how my takes are right now. We'll just talk a little bit of sports. That's kind of what I know best. I'd like to have some guests on here that know other things. Like, I love talking about like science. I think, I obviously won't have Neil deGrasse Tyson, but having a conversation about that sort of stuff I think would be fantastic. It would be wonderful. It would be really enlightening for me. I'd really like to talk about comic books. I don't really read comics as much, but I do like the movies, so the DC Universe, the MCU, obviously. I like the DC Animated Universe. I think that was a great series, and that will be a whole conversation topic for another day. I'd like to have a guest for that conversation. And then just like whatever else all is going on. I do have a couple friends that are musicians. I'd love to have them in and talk to them about how they got into music and how they decided, and how they... and just why they enjoyed it as much as they do, and I think it'll be a really good conversation. So, having said that, I think I will be signing off. But before I do, I would like to give as he would call it, a shout out to Mr. Sleazy for giving me a shirt to his podcast, and I think that everybody should give it a watch if you like southern things. They like talking about the Georgia Bulldogs and the Atlanta Braves, and they're just some good old boys from down south in Athens, Georgia, talking about life and sports and everything like that. And it's the Did You Hear Me podcast. Thanks, Sleazy, for the shirt. I really appreciate it. I'll wear it with pride, and I'll get you a Roman and Dave podcast shirt here in the near future. But if you guys get a chance, if you want to hear really intelligent takes on Georgia Bulldogs and Atlanta Braves, and just some funny conversations about being dads and husbands and everything like that, give the Did You Hear Me podcast a shout out, a listen. You can hear them on Spotify and I think iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts available. I'm gonna try to do a podcast once a week. I'm going to try to have a different topic of the week. This one was just kind of an introduction. Next week, I'd like to talk about the Oregon Ducks, okay, and Heisman favorite Bo Nix. that is a conversation that needs to happen, and I cannot wait for it to happen. I cannot wait for you guys to hear my thoughts on it. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. So if you have any thoughts about the Ducks, please send them to me. Again, Roman and Dave Podcast on Facebook, Roman and Dave Podcast on Instagram, and Roman and Dave Podcast at gmail.com. It's a way to get to hold me. Please, guys, reach out if you'd like to buy some merch. We will have a lot more stuff coming out. Roman and I will be starting our workouts here very soon. It's the holiday season. This upcoming week's Thanksgiving, so I'm not sure what we'll be able to get as far as workouts go, but I promise you we will get as much out as we can, and we will try to have as much fun as we possibly can. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be fun. I think you guys are really going to enjoy Season 2 of the Roman and Dave Podcast. Last thing, if you guys have any suggestions about what you would like to hear or what you think we should talk about, or if I could get somebody on the show that you would be interested in, please reach out to me. I think it'll be I think this will be fun. I think it'll be good. Thank you guys for listening to my very first episode. I promise this will get better. Thank you guys for tuning in. Have a great Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday weekend. I'll see you down the road.